Oh boy, alright, where to even start with this one? I'm gonna say right out of the gate, this chapter is fantastic. It is the best chapter so far, and I am fiending so hard for chapter 5. But since I only have to wait a year, maybe not even that, in the meantime, I can just gush about the game as a whole. Now, obviously, the doesn't even need to be said, honestly, that the music in Deltarune is fantastic. Well, somehow, through the power of fucking blood magic or something, Toby outdid himself once again. The emotional tracks, the intense tracks, the borderline horror tracks, he hit the bullseye with all of them. I cannot ever overstate how impressive Toby Fox is as a game designer, composer, and storyteller. To see in real time how talented he is in his writing and composing is truly something to behold. And if there's anything to take from this video, I'm just so glad to be a part of this, to just experience these games that Toby Fox makes. Now, the story. Okay. This will definitely be a long one. I have so much to say about chapter 4. So, let's begin, shall we? The chapter starts off chill, with Susie, as well as Kris, honestly, being roped into going to church with Toriel and the funny shenanigans that come with that. It also starts off so goddamn wholesome, I love it. This chapter in general is full of small but significant moments, and I will go over some of them now because I will never stop gushing about how good this game is and how good the writing is. For example, the text when you inspect the mirror in your house, in Toriel's house, is so feel good. It's honestly one of my favorite little moments in the entire game. It says, "It's hard to put into words, but for some reason, seeing Susie next to you, you felt like whatever you were, for just right now, it might be okay." Since finding out that the player is controlling Kris in chapter 3, really chapter 2 is when I started to think something was up. But ever since finding out that the player is controlling Kris, that the player isn't Kris, it's honestly really nice with moments like this that makes both Kris and the player have a sense that despite being put in this situation out of their will, so to speak, things just might work out after all. The next moment is when you go to the Dark World and hang out with Ralsei. You could never enter Ralsei's room before, but since Susie is Susie, she barges in because she wants to see. The reveal that it's completely empty because Ralsei puts himself down, sees his worth as lesser compared to the Lightners. It's really sad, but at the same time, the following conversation that Susie and Kris have, where they want to find furniture and decorations and for the room, and especially Kris' affirmation of just be yourself to Ralsei and Ralsei's subsequent happiness is so wholesome and nice. Kris has been closest to Susie for the majority of the game, but stuff like this shows that they care about Ralsei and think of him as a close friend too. Ralsei's self-perception and the affirmation his friends give him is something that is very relevant to this chapter. Something I will talk about later. This furniture gathering also made me play a third playthrough after finishing recording the footage on my second playthrough, because I managed to fuck up and tell Ralsei to park his butt before I took the couch cushion. And since I, in my infinite wisdom, saved over my previous save, because surely this would be the definitive save going forward, I needed to play it again. So everything was right this time. It's not OCD, it's simply that everything needs to be correct. Alright? Anyway, there's also one scene that I missed on my first playthrough. That being when Kris is at the diner with Susie. That's really cute, but if I go over every cute interaction, I might as well write a book the size of the Dune books. Or, make a really long video gushing about this chapter. So screw it! I recorded footage of the entire chapter, and so doing saw stuff I didn't on my first playthrough, so let's go over the diner scene too! This scene is short, sweet, and just nice. I think this moment means a lot to both Kris and Susie. Because as Susie says, the last time she was here is when Toriel took her there when she found Susie crying on the bench in the graveyard. She even comments on the fact that Kris is smiling in the same way that Toriel did. To Susie, this moment is special. She's with her best friend and having a good time in the same place where Kris' mother comforted her. And to Kris, this is also a special moment, because the family used to gather at the diner after church, but they haven't seemingly gone there ever since the divorce. For Kris too, in this moment, they have a sense of normalcy, where they can just have a good time with the people they love. They even start doing the same thing that they did back then, writing and drawing on the window using the breath. It's a quiet moment, but it's significant for both Susie and Kris. Now, back to the main story. We'll see how long I can stay on track. After some shenanigans at the church, including the best joke in the game, where Kris says to the priest, Father Alvin, "Bangin' sermon, my man," we go to Noelle's house. This singular place gives Deltarune so much goddamn lore and lore implications that I just might explode. But I will try to do this in order so that it doesn't seem like schizo-ranting. It will definitely seem like schizo-ranting. First and foremost, the main reason why we're here. To find clues about the codes to the bunker so we can open it and close the dark fountain in there. On this point, we search around the house until we enter the room of December Holiday, or just Des for short, Noelle's missing sister. A song plays, The Distance Between Two. This song immediately brings to mind the song Lost Girl from Chapter 2. That's when it hits you. The lost girl in question was never Noelle. It was Des. The name of the Chapter 4 song even indicate this, with the distance between two most likely being in reference to how the two sisters are far apart due to something that happened in the past. This is also corroborated by certain events in Chapter 3. A code to one of the doors before the end of the chapter is 1225. Putting 1,225 points into the gacha machine in the green room and checking the machine will teleport you to a looping red maze. In this maze, the song Find Her plays. This song is a rearrangement of Lost Girl. And what is 1225? December 25th, Christmas. One could even call it a December holiday. With all of this, I absolutely believe that Des is a lost girl. She's missing, and we need to find her. After entering Des' room, you can find Des' guitar and find the code within. 1, 2, 2. But then Kris rips out the soul, as they do not want the player to read the full code. However, as stated, I'm pretty sure the code is very likely to be 1225. After Kris rips out the soul and chucks it into a box and slams the door like the angry teenager that they are, the player can move around the house. There are various events one can see when going through the house via the ventilation system. And I'm going to go over most of them, as they have lore implications the size of the British Empire. God bless. Oh wait, the Queen. No, never mind. Don't think about it. First, there's the one I found first. That being Kris on the phone with what is implied and what I believe to be the Roaring Knight. With the Knight saying that Susie mustn't get her hands on the guitar. I don't think I need to explain what a reveal this is. Kris is working with the Knight. Whether that is willingly or unwillingly remains to be seen, but it's a massive bombshell nonetheless. This makes the scene from the end of Chapter 3 click into place as well, at least for me. Thanks to Critical and Crahar, my two good mates and fellow Deltarune enjoyers, I realized the slash that defeats Susie and Ralsei after quote-unquote defeating the Knight came from Kris. This is why Ralsei says, "How could you?" Because, like, why would he say, "How could you," if it came from the Knight? Like, it's the Knight. Obviously, the Knight is going to attack you. For me, at least, I feel like it makes way more sense for "How could you" to come after Kris slashes. It also now makes sense why Kris did it, in light of this scene, given that they're working with a Knight for some reason. This in particular, I can't wait to see what happens, since there's gotta be a reason why. Kris is not a bad person. Yeah, they're mischievous, they're full of faenskap, as the Norwegian language aptly puts it, but they're not a bad person. They love their friends and wouldn't hurt them. So why are they helping the Knight? Only time will tell. I've seen a lot of people like dunking on the Kris slash theory, but like, and yeah, maybe it's not real, but it's fun to speculate. And for right now, at least, I think that it's possible that the slash came from Kris. Like, put yourself in this situation. You're a teenager that just have constant pressure over everything in your life. Your parents are divorced. You're working with a malicious entity, a malicious person that wants to do something that it's possible, obviously, though misguided, that it's better that I knock them out now rather than being egregiously hurt by the Knight. The next scene is one that I didn't find on my first playthrough and only saw thanks to Crahar. This is why it pays to watch your homies play the same game, okay? Because you might see some stuff that you missed. And boy, did I miss one hell of a scene. Asgore is cleaning the house and talking about how soon Toriel and everyone will be able to understand what really happened, and that he just wanted to protect everyone. He also comments that it sure is beautiful, isn't it? This black shard. Alarm bells. Loud alarm bells. The shadow crystal collected from the chapter secret bosses are heavily implied to have given to them by the Knight. The shadow crystals give great power, but at the expense of their sanity. And the crystals have been given to those that have lost everything and are very vulnerable, making them easy to manipulate, and hence why they go insane. Is what I wrote in the script before realizing through research that it's not a shadow crystal he has. Shadow crystals are shown in the light world as pieces of glass. What Asgore has is part of the Knight's weapon, the black knife. You know this because he calls it a black shard, and if you win against the Knight, you get a black shard, and it is shown as a black shard in the light world. Somehow, the alarm bells have gotten even louder! The Black Shard was given to Asgore by the Knight in the Light World. This, to me, as I will talk about later, is proof of Carol being the Knight. Asgore doesn't seem to do much other than be at his shop, stalking Toriel, and work at Carol's house. So to me, the likeliest candidate for the Knight is Carol in my eyes. I will, as I said, I will talk about more about this a bit later. Furthermore, Asgore still hasn't gotten over what happened in the past, making him the prime target of the Knight's manipulation. As for what happened in the past, we still don't know. You get certain clues, like Asgore being fired as chief of police, and an incident that led to his firing. But exactly what happened is something we don't know yet. Yet another part of the lore that I can't wait to find out about in later chapters. This scene becomes even more relevant later in this chapter, as I will discuss later. The final scene to mention is part of the main story, but I still want to mention it because it's really nice. It's Susie and Noelle just talking about stuff while Kris is searching the house. Their interactions are really sweet, and pranking them by scaring them in the basement was really funny. However, the scene where they are in Death's room, while you and Kris are having a Tom and Jerry bit in the closet, is very interesting. They could talk about the difference in how they view Kris. Noelle, having known Kris since childhood, find their recent behavior weird and not themselves. Since the player is essentially possessing Kris, this makes sense. For Susie, however, it just seems like normal Kris, since she only got to know them after we started possessing Kris. This does make me wonder, how much of Kris does she know, and how much of it is just us, the player? However, we're going to ignore that potentially heart-wrenching and reality-shattering question, because Kris and Susie are shown to absolutely care about each other regardless of the player's input, and I will ignore any evidence to the contrary. These people deserve a happy ending, man, and I really hope everything works out by the end. If not, I will explode once again. After seeing all this, Kris and the Soul finish their Tom and Jerry bit, and with Susie grabbing Death's guitar from Kris' hands and leaving the room to play it. For Noelle, of course. Gotta riz up the deer, it's important. I'm gonna cut that from the fucking footage. Kris then calls the Knight, or at least, again, what I assume to be the Knight, with the Knight saying that I'll be right over. This is huge. We may finally find out what the Knight's true identity is. After calling the Knight, Kris deletes the call history and contact info again, in another attempt to not make us find out. In this case, find out who the Knight is. Susie plays the guitar and all is ballin' until Noelle's mother comes in. The track that accompanies her arrival, C, is literally chilling. It immediately sets you on edge and makes you uncomfortable. It's also, I'd say, a reference to the track D that plays before you fight Birdley in Chapter 2's Weird Route. I'd say this is just further proof that the Holiday family is central to the plot of Deltarune in all routes. Back to Carol. Noelle's father, Rudy, has in previous chapters described Carol as a lot and being quite hard on Noelle. Something that is abundantly clear as day in how Noelle reacts to her. She stumbles over her words, tries to explain that it wasn't Susie's fault and that it was her that wanted to hear the guitar played again, but Carol shuts her down, ordering her to go into the kitchen. Susie tries to explain and is polite towards Carol, which is, a first, given that it's Susie. But no. She doesn't want to make things hard for Noelle. But when hit with, "You're not welcome in this house," she again flips on what the Norwegian language would call fulla faenskap, and sticks it in Carol's face that she's taking Noelle to the festival tomorrow, and runs out of the house. Classic Susie. Since Susie left, we try to follow, only to be stopped by Carol, who says that you are always welcome here. This scene, in my mind at least, proves that Carol is the knight. The voice on the phone, who again is implied to be the knight, says, "I'll be right there." Asgore was already in the house cleaning, and Carol came home from work way too early, as noted by Noelle's panic. So there's no way that she isn't a knight. And given how domineering it is, it could be very easy to explain why Kris is helping the knight if Carol is manipulating them in some way. She also seems to have somewhat of a chokehold on Asgore, since he rents his flower shop from her and is constantly behind on rent because he doesn't want to sell the flowers. Maybe she threatened to defame or even hurt Asgore if Kris didn't do what she said. For right now, at least, Carol is the most likely suspect in being the knight. Phew. Man. The chapter at this point isn't even halfway done yet. Not by a long shot. And I've already written this much and talked this much. But it's fine. We're done soon. We're not at all. Not even remotely close. Much like how we're not even halfway done in the chapter, I'm not even halfway through the script. So we'll see how long this video is. It'll be great to find out. After the lore-wise massive section of Noelle's house, we go to the church to find Toriel, only to see that it's become a dark world. Well, time for another adventure. Surely it will not be traumatic in any way. This Dark World is by far the best one so far. The music is fantastic, the visuals are fantastic, and the chapter story is fantastic. This Dark World's theme is all about the prophecy that we've heard from Ralsei, about how 3 heroes that will save the world and prevent the roaring. Fittingly so, since it takes place in the church, and the legend of the Deltarune is the focal point of the religion that the church belongs to, which apparently has the fan name of Angelism, due to the worship of the angel and its central role in the religion. It beats the names that I was going to think up, which were Deltarunism or the Deltarune religion. So Angelism is what we're going to use. Anyway, the vibes in this place are unmatched. And man, does the story have a bevy of stuff to tell. Let's see if I can stay on track or if I write 3 new Dune novels. First, there's the straightforward story being told, so to speak. Again, it's about the prophecy and how it predicts what's going to happen, and has predicted the overarching stuff that has happened in previous chapters. Like the heroes defeating the king, the heroes closing the dark fountains, the queen's chariot that cannot be stopped, stuff like that. As the chapters goes on though, things start not adding up when they're reading the prophecy on the stained glass. Certain details are slightly different than how Ralsei told them, to which he explains that he told the short version, the summary of the prophecy. As Susie said earlier in this chapter, that seems kinda sus. You also meet a funny old man that is the best character in this entire chapter. He's a jokester and a supportive grandpa, and was a big mentor figure, which I'll touch on later. His name is never stated outright, But if you've played Undertale, or played to the end of this chapter, you can see that this man is Gerson Boone, Father Alvin's father, and writer of the Lord of the Hammer series, which is based on the prophecy. This is the quote-unquote straightforward story setup of chapter 4, but now it's time to dig deep into the character side of the story, because man, is there so much to talk about. First, there is Ralsei and his character arc in this chapter. Man. Dude. Bro. I cannot believe that there are people who dislike Ralsei and thought he was secretly evil or some shit like that. Because they are... Calling it a character arc in this chapter is a bit misleading though. Since Ralsei has slowly but surely been developing throughout the chapters. Before, he just wanted to do whatever to fulfill his role and please Kris and Susie. But the more he spends time with them, the more he starts to develop interests, likes, dislikes, and desires of his own. He talks to Kris about this in the scene in his room that I talked about before. And what was a good start to this chapter became so much more. It is eventually revealed that the prophecy he told us was a heavily edited version, as he didn't want us to be burdened by the truth. Matter of fact, he knows everything that is going to happen, and is so burdened by and with this knowledge that he never knows when to say things and when to not. It puts a great strain on him. And this to me explains why he's been vague and kind of shady in previous chapters. He seems to know more because he literally does know more. The reason why he has been vague and didn't tell the entire prophecy is because he doesn't want his friends to hurt and fall into despair because of the truth. And man, do I really understand that after finishing this chapter. And then there's Susie. And then there was Susie. Bro. She also gets fantastic development through her interactions with Gerson. While Gerson is a supportive grandpa to all of the Fung gang, he becomes a mentor to Susie. He teaches Susie plenty of life lessons, to the point where Susie says, "You're the only person I've met who, by teaching me, made me actually feel less stupid." This student-mentor relationship is so nice to see, and Susie cares about Gerson a lot. And it honestly just exemplifies Susie's character development over the chapters. She started as a bully, but is now Kris' closest friend. There's a lot of background information in the game that implies she's either living by herself or has neglectful parents, such as her getting Dragon Blazers 2 from Lost and Found, for example. Nonetheless, she's always had to fend for herself, so seeing her connect with a new person like this and seeing her care about Gerson so fervently, it just makes me proud of her, man. Which of course means that she has to suffer! Yes! Thank you, Tricky Tony! Gerson's dead in the light world, and finding the hammer with Gerson's dust on it, she doesn't take it well. She can't have one good thing, man. Then that is followed up with Susie creating her own dark world because she wants to see Gerson and, you know, tell him and seeing him one last time, and also, you know, close the dark fountain, but she would just want to see him again. But the Gerson you seem to find just attacks you and doesn't answer Susie. Susie starts to basically break down and apologize to Gerson for being selfish and wanting to see him again, and that she understands if he hates her. Since he doesn't answer, Susie goes, "You know what? Fine! This will make you remember," and shoots a ball of healing light that Gerson taught her to focus on and get better at. This isn't Gerson. His face looks all wrong. After Ralsei destroys the fucking thing in 2 shots, Jesus Christ, man, have you been holding out on us, dude? Ralsei explains that it was just a statue of Gerson, not Gerson himself. This leads to Susie snapping. Which causes Ralsei to explain that he didn't want to say stuff about the prophecy because it would just hurt his friends. Susie, being the epitome of character development that she is, tells Ralsei that if it means that much to him, he can go ahead and see if we need to know about it or not. Supporting your friends, the power of friendship, this is what it's all about, baby! What? So they continue. Until Tricky Tony decides Susie hasn't suffered enough yet. So she runs ahead of Ralsei and sees the end of the prophecy. We never get to see it because Susie shatters the glass with her bare fist, leaving her hand bleeding. She insists that it's fine because we'd never let that happen, but what she saw clearly affected her. My immediate thought was that the whole "there is but one way to save the worlds" thing is that Susie either dies or has to sacrifice herself. But then again, it could be something completely different. Maybe it was that Kris had to sacrifice themselves, or that the vessel we made at the very start of the game had to kill Kris due to some perceived danger that Kris poses. Stuff like this is just so cool to think about and discuss and theorize about, because I've seen so many different theories on what the last prophecy could be. Yet another part of this game that I can't wait to see how will develop. Man, water is so good. Anyone who doesn't drink water is missing out, man. Finally, there is Kris, the cage. They also get significant moments in this chapter. I already mentioned their moments in Noelle's house, but they get some very major scenes in the Dark World too. There are some smaller moments that I like. For example, Gerson subtly teaching Kris about the road not preferable to following the set path, even commending you for doing so when you go further left after trying to find his study. This goes with this overall message to the Fun Gang as a whole, that we decide our fate, not some prophecy. There's also the moment where Kris uses the soul as a wayfinder when everything goes dark and we lose Susie in the second sanctuary. Because the time we have imagined what Susie's doing, the soul switches to Susie's perspective, and in this moment, Kris uses that to their advantage by finding the soul in the dark. That's why they come to Susie's rescue. And that shit is so cool, dog. These are cool moments, to be sure. But to me, Kris' big moments happen at the end of the chapter. First, there's the scene with Ralsei after Susie finds out about the final prophecy. As I've discussed, Ralsei's sense of self-worth isn't much. He thinks he doesn't deserve his friends and that he only exists to please Lightners. And while he's come a long way, he still doesn't think that highly of himself. He also, no matter what, wants to maintain a positive outlook and not think about negative stuff. This is shown in general, but especially in Chapter 2 after the Spamton Neo fight, where Kris is visibly upset and disturbed that they are very much alike Spamton, just puppets on a string. When Kris shouts that they're not okay, Ralsei tells them that it doesn't mean anything and that they shouldn't think about it too hard. He didn't say that due to knowing something or hiding something. It's simply due to the fact that he never thinks about that bad stuff, because if he did, I'm pretty sure that he would break. And when he then does break down in this moment, but tries to tell Kris that he's fine and look, I'm smiling, Kris tells him it's okay not to smile and hugs him. This, to me, cements the fact that Kris absolutely cares about Ralsei and considers him their friend. We did not prompt Kris to hug him. They did that of their own accord. While we're in the driver's seat, we're not in full control, as multiple events in previous chapters have shown. While we pick what Kris is going to say, they still have control over how they say it and what they do after. Kris choosing to hug Ralsei of their own accord sends the crystal clear message that they care about him, and I will not hear otherwise. Ralsei also comments on the fact that Kris was cool on the piano, which leads me into the next scene with them playing the grand piano. Kris is shown to be an avid piano player and clearly enjoys it. There's a scene in the Holiday Mansion that I didn't mention earlier, where you can hear Kris playing the piano after talking to the voice on the phone. They play various songs from the game, like Acid Tunnel of Love, Rules Cards theme, and some original songs that I've seen people speculate will show up in later chapters. There's also a quite sad and melancholic version of the Castletown theme, which is called Last Prophecy. This has some dire implications that I do not like whatsoever. Please, please, for the love of God, don't hurt my pixel friends. I don't want any of them to die. Don't do this to me, Tricky Tony. I swear to...
Hi, this is Editor Chrono, me realizing that I didn't actually talk about the grand piano scene. Oops. So yeah, it's time to talk about the grand piano scene! In the scene of Kris playing the grand piano, you attempt to play the song, but since you are not Kris and since you don't have their skill, a phenomenon commonly referred to as a skill issue, you fail at playing the song. Susie, once again being the epitome of character development and just simply a great friend, in a way calls Kris out on it and tells them that they should play. And so, they play. In this scene, you can clearly see that Kris is putting their all into it. They move and flow with every note they play. They clearly love to play the piano, and in this moment, even if it's just for a short period, they can do what they love without being shackled by the player. And the result is beautiful.
Another major scene is when the fun gang has a moment that, in most games, would happen at the very end of the game. I'm just going to show this scene in full because, frankly, it speaks for itself. Like, where do I even start with this scene? The Fun Gang's friendship has grown stronger for each chapter, but this scene elevates and crystallizes that friendship into the purest form of love and camaraderie. These three people love each other and will be there for each other for as long as they live. And, come what may, it just might work out. Shielding each other from Knight's attacks while us, the player, the soul, lights the way. The reason I include this under Kris moments is due to the fact that for the first time in Deltarune, all of us are working together. Kris, Susie, and Ralsei are shielding each other, but we're there too. We're right there alongside them, lighting the way and helping them on their way. We may be an unfortunate parasite latching onto Kris, but we want to help. And in this moment, we do. Then, there's the big one. The scene that made everyone want to play or replay the genocide route in Undertale. Let me paint you a picture here. You are extremely tired. You have spent the whole day searching for your mom inside multiple dark worlds. Fighting, taking beatings from the roaring night, even fighting a horror beyond human comprehension that is prophesied to destroy both worlds should they awake. Sure, you beat it, but it was through the help of a powerhouse of a man. This horror can regenerate extremely quickly, and he won't be there to help you next time. You found this out because you found his dust on the hammer in Father Alvin's office. You were visibly disturbed and shaken by this, and your best friend took it even worse, as Gerson was her mentor. You also found out that some terrible event will occur in the near future that will result in a tragedy. You don't know the nature of this tragedy, but it was enough that one of your best friends punched the glass in anger and started bleeding. It also clearly disturbed her and affected her a lot, as she is distant when you come back to the light world. All of this while you're still worried where your mum might be. So you go home. It's late at night, there's nowhere else to go. You open the door to your house. And there she is, your mom, dancing with that shopkeeper guy you've seen around town sometimes. She's been safe all along. You're worried for absolutely nothing. She doesn't even seem to be worried that you've been gone. She's drunk and with a man you barely know. Mom is drunk. Man I barely know. She doesn't even seem worried about me. And Susie just left. I'm alone with these two, my drunk mom and a man I barely know. I hate this. I'm going to bed. I don't care what my mom says. She wasn't worried about me. She doesn't care about me. They won't turn down the sound. They keep talking, louder and louder. Shut up, 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 shut up! Wait. I hear Susie. I'll never let it happen. Right. That. What is going to happen? I don't know. I'm so tired. Don't forget, Kris. You promised. I won't forget. This scene is so damn good. Everything we've done and everything that's happened in this chapter, and Toriel was safe the entire time. More than that, doesn't even seem to be worried whatsoever that Kris was nowhere to be found. Like, yeah, she has said that Kris does this sometimes, so it's a very regular occurrence that they disappear without a word. But this is different. Not only was she not worried about where Kris had been, she took that opportunity to get drunk with a random man that Kris didn't know. She even says that she cancelled choir practice due to the rain. But then she also says that she ducked into a convenience store because Sans was so much fun that who gives a damn about choir practice? So what, she just played hooky just to so she could get drunk with Sans? And then as soon as you're thinking, man, Toriel is really irresponsible for this, the second part of the scene hits. Kris clearly shows that they are uncomfortable and are going to bed, so what does Toriel do? Why, she just keeps going. And, to Kris at least, doesn't care about Kris at all. She and Sans just keeps talking loudly over loud music, making it impossible for Kris to sleep. Like, I can maybe forgive the lack of questioning of where Kris has been on Toriel's part, since they seem to do it fairly regularly. Maybe. Perchance even. Not really, since the very night before, her tires were slashed, and for all she knows, there's a criminal running loose in the town. And instead of being out on the town looking for them, or at the very least being really worried for Kris when they come home, she instead goes, "Hello, Kris, I am very drunk, and also this is Mr. Sans, who I'm dancing with without a care in the world. A child? Wait, I have one of those?" Anyway, I can maybe forgive that. With everything that has happened, the slashed tires, Asgore's relentless advances bordering on stalking, her clearly missing Asriel, maybe this was a night where she could just unwind with a new friend. Except no, because there's no way you can convince me that Toriel didn't see that Kris was distressed and uncomfortable. She's their mother, and everyone knows that parents can literally read your mind and tell you something is wrong by the slightest twitch of your eyebrow. Despite that, she carries on like nothing is wrong, not turning down the volume, and continues talking loudly with Sans. Even if she's just letting loose to forget the stress and worries for one night, it's still just really irresponsible to not even question what has happened, or even just asking Kris if it's okay, should I turn down the sound, stuff like that. She does none of that. As you can clearly tell, I am very invested in this scene. You really feel for Kris and how they must be feeling. Because I know exactly how Kris is feeling. Something similar. Despite this whole rant of ragging on Toriel for how irresponsible she isn't a bad mom. She just made a big blunder. I fully believe that in Chapter 5 we will get a scene with Toriel where she apologizes and feels terrible about last night. It is possible we won't get that scene immediately if Kris decides to ignore her and just barge out of the house. They are a teenager after all, and what Toriel did is the kind of thing a teenager would take really badly. Again, I do believe we will get it at some point in the chapter though, since Toriel is by all accounts a good mother. But she has flaws like everyone else, so she very likely realizes by morning that she hurt Kris. Yet another thing I can't wait to see how it unfolds. Man, I really can't wait to see how long this video will be. I have so much to say about this chapter. But I'm not done yet. Now it's time to talk about the weird route, baby. There's nothing to be excited about. This chapter's weird route is fucked up, bro. Like, what the hell? As always, there are minor alterations here and there, like Susie just straight up saying things took a weird route, which, combined with her saying sus earlier in this chapter, makes me think that Tricky Tony's brain might be melting. But again, these are minor alterations. What really sets this chapter weird route apart from all of the other ones is the scene in the holiday mansion with Noelle. It shows you the consequences of your actions in the rawest form possible. It makes you sit there and watch as the horrifying events unfold. You chose this. Now witness the consequences firsthand. This scene is horrifying. For the first time, we make ourselves directly known to the world of Deltarune by speaking through Kris. Noelle is terrified. As she has known Kris all her life, she could tell that Kris hasn't been themselves in the last couple of days. She can hear a terrifying voice different from Kris' voice when we speak through them, and has heard it ever since chapter 2. Kris' desperation through the scene is so incredibly palpable. From trying to shush Noelle so that she doesn't reveal to the player that Kris visited her and told her it was just a bad dream and a bad prank and removed the thorn ring from her, to grabbing her and running out of the room if Kris spots the soul before it enters them. It is such a good scene. And as I said, Noelle becomes more and more terrified of Kris the more you proceed. She wants to do something, anything, but she's too terrified to act. She starts stumbling over her words and desperately tries to dissuade Kris. But her pleas fall on deaf ears. Equip. Noelle stumbling over her words here is something that I have seen interesting observations on. She stumbles over her words here in the same way that she does when she's trying to explain things to Carol. In this scene, Kris is making Noelle as terrified of them as she is terrified of her mom. There are so many layers to this scene's sense of dread and horror, and it's both so well written and so well executed and so absolutely terrifying. After this psychological horror movie of a scene, it is then followed up by Kris slamming the soul into a trash can and kicks the ever-loving shit out of it while a high-pitched ringing plays. And yeah, that this is the most understandable reaction in this entire game so far. The player absolutely deserves it. It's such a good follow-up scene too. Kris tried desperately to make amends with Noelle and tell her it was just a bad prank, only for the player to make it infinitely worse. If it wasn't obvious from the previous chapters, Kris despises the player in the weird route. They can do nothing but watch as the player ruins their life in increasingly sadistic and cruel ways. There's also something very interesting about the equipping effect specifically. In the original version, Noelle's soul took the appearance of a flower that wilts. People took this as Kris deflowering Noelle. Side tangent here, but genuinely, what the fuck, bro? Like, I get it, but also hell no. This is Toby Fox, not SBN3. He's not the kind of writer that will throw that in just for shock value. This scene is already fucked up as is. There's literally no fucking point in adding rape. Nevertheless, the equipping effect was changed from a flower wilting to a glass shattering effect. I like this one more, so I guess it all works out in the end, despite the very, very fucked up. No. Anyway, you have multiple chances here to back out of the weird route if you choose the other option, but no, you proceed. No matter how Kris tries to stop you through meaningless dialogue prompts, you proceed. You equip the thorn ring on Noelle. Your manipulation of Noelle has now resulted in her losing her sense of self. In the original version, her sense of self, her soul, has wilted away. In the current version, her soul has shattered. This looks extremely dire, and I dread to see what state Noelle will be in the next chapter. This is not helped by the fact that the last scene alters, where Kris doesn't hear Susie talking, but instead gets a call from Carol telling them that Noelle is really looking forward to meeting Kris tomorrow. Oh God. So yeah, this scene is so well done in how fucked up it is. The droning noise getting louder and louder, Noelle's terrified reaction, the equipping effect, the following scene with Kris destroying the trash can in order to hurt the soul. It's so well done. Noelle is no longer Noelle. She is something that, in worst case scenario and honestly all likelihood, will listen to your every command. Her mind is broken. She's not herself anymore. She's a tool at our disposal, and I hate it. And that is why I will never play the weird route. I will feel like an absolutely horrid doing this route. So I just won't. Ever. I care about these characters too much to do that to them. And now, because there is no other place to put it, here is all the rest of the various stuff in the chapter that I found cool. First, we gotta start with Michael Fung. Mike's boss fight and entire presence is so unique and funny even for this game. You control the entire fight with your mic and mouse to heal. Pet the mics and evade attacks. Here are some funny clips of the fight that showcases this.
I feel like this guy, he gotta be voiced like in a like a sleazy car businessman, salesman type.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, this is 48 volts. They're gonna be just for show.
Yeah, you got it.
Yep. Farm. Fuck. Yeah. Farm.
Yeah. You're doing great. You're doing great, honey.
Up. Normal. Du tar for lang tid. Ja, men för fan. Jag suger på det. You talking to me? I think Mike needs a little break. Be back in the sink. Okay. Oh, what the fuck?
That's Mike.
That's not Mike.
That's Mike.
Mike is definitely a cat. Yup.
Yeah, it's Mike.
They don't look shy to me, Mike. Mike famously loves to talk. I'm going to talk right now. Listen. Did you hear? That was great, right? Real verbose. Yeah, sure was. Why on the dog? Get there. Xbox. Miserable, I said. Miserable. Okay, thanks, Mike. Oh, right. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. No. Jag suger bollen. Xbox. Okay. Still alive. Okay.
innuendo.
Considers manipulating the volume. How about you don't? A lot. Motor Mouse Mike. Motor Mouse Mike. My name is Motor Mouse Mike. Yeah. What he said. Motor Mike. Motor Mouse. I love Mike. Oh. Alright, that shit. Oh my phone. Fuck! Helvete! Fuck! Fuck! Ah! Yes!
After you beat him, it turns out that none of these goobers are Mike. They just pretended to be because they have no idea who Mike actually is. But since Tenna talked to him so often and always talks to Mike, they wanted to get that kind of attention. Green Mike even has a conspiracy board dedicated to Mike. This definitely strikes me as a playful jab at the constant theorizing that the community does in, like, everything. But it's playful, it's fun, and it's just a good time all around. After this discussion on the mic, you walk to the right.
No, wait a bit.
Okay. What the fuck? Yeah? Hello, Mike. Are you Mike? Are you Mike? Okay, that was great.
Yeah.
Can I see the grace of Mike again? No. Okay.
As a reward for beating the fake mics, you get an audience with a big Mike himself. A big Mike. Truly, Toby Fox is an auteur in writing. You even get lore of all things. When checking the conspiracy board, it says that you don't really like looking at this sort of thing. This, has some implications. Kris has seen this type of board before. And as I say in the footage...
It's probably Asgore, isn't it? Probably Asgore that has a conspiracy board.
Which would make sense, given his stated obsession by multiple NPCs, and his own words of wanting to fix everything and make everyone see that he was just trying to protect everyone. Thank you, Toby Fox, for making the most innocuous and optional of content have lore. Tricky Tony strikes again, the absolute legend. Another cool thing is the grand piano. After playing Susie's sheet music on the piano, you can play the piano freely. You can use it to play several songs, which include Undertale songs like His Theme and Heartache, Deltarune songs like Don't Forget and Lost Girl, and then you have You Got a Friend in Me. Friend in Me theorists were surely foaming at the mouth from this discovery. Finally, I like the scene at the beach after you return from the sanctuary. After Susie says that she's hearing someone playing on the other side of the lake, after a little bit of time, Kris starts looking at Susie, to which she asks if she got something on her face. This is yet another example of a small but significant moment. Kris is clearly worried about Susie, but doesn't know how to broach the subject. Sure, Susie said we won't let that happen, whatever that is, but she's still visibly affected by what she saw. Similar to the diner scene, this scene showcases Kris and Susie's friendship. In this case, the worry friends have for each other when they can see something is wrong. You take the good with the bad. The good are their adventures in the dark world and scenes such as the diner scene. And the bad is difficulty expressing your worries when you can see your friend is in distress but not sure how to handle it. This chapter is fantastic. Deltarune is fantastic. There are no other words for it. I am so happy to be living in a time where Undertale and Deltarune exist. Ever since I saw the True Pacifist ending on YouTube shortly after Undertale came out and bawled my eyes out from how beautiful it was, I have loved every single part of it. And when Deltarune came out, it all started again. I loved the characters, both old and new. I loved the humor. I loved the music. I loved everything about it. And it just gets better for every chapter. Each chapter builds upon the previous one, improving it in some way. Chapter 2 introduced the expanded inventory system, as well as the proper introduction of the weird route. Chapter 3 is a shift in the tone of the story, being way more real and serious than the previous ones, including many ominous elements such as Toriel and Asgore's divorce, the disappearance of Des, and the entire sword route. Not to mention the raising of the stakes by introducing the Roaring Knight in person. All of this while still being funny and a game show where Steve Harvey asked you if you've heard of the funny price tag on the Ralsei plushie. Chapter 4 continues this storytelling choice by raising the stakes even further by making us fight a Titan, the very thing Ralsei told us would destroy the world if they awakened. It also, as discussed extensively in this video, provides so much character development and insights into all of its main cast. The humor continues to be great, the music continues to be great, and the characters continue to be fantastic. And on the other side, the weird route is the most fucked up it's ever been. I can't wait to see how the story will unfold in Chapter 5. So, to conclude this extensive video, Deltarune Chapter 4, it's so peak, holy shit!